Okay, right. Can you hear me all?
Yeah.
Premnath?
Yes,
Just
yes, we can hear you.
perfect. Okay. Now, the world of startups, right, as we were talking over the last um, few sessions, is all about uncertainties. But the startup leadership and the co-founders have a knack of navigating these uncertainties and finally realizing a product that kind of creates a dent in the universe, brings happiness to customers, brings happiness to people and users. And uh, the AIM Prime program, as we have seen, is all about what are these journeys, how do you define your product, build products, interact with your vendors, deal with market realities, raise funds, all of that. And so when Premnath and I were talking about how do we kind of bring together people who have done it or who are doing it, and we were discussion around it so that our cohort and the rest of the world through the YouTube can interact and gain some insights. We thought let's put together a panel, and it is really my pleasure to introduce you the panel with me today. One thing common is did you say anything, Mugdha?
Can you go, please go full screen?
Yeah, I'll go full screen. Mugdha is the boss here. Right. So there is a panel with us, two women entrepreneurs and men entrepreneurs on the bottom. All of them are pushing through and creating an enterprise that is either going to bring amazing products or have already brought products into the market. Let me start by introducing the panel quickly, and then we will discuss the points that we want to discuss. So the plan is to introduce, then have the panel members speak about 2 to 3 minutes about their company, and then have a half an hour to 40 minutes of panel discussion moderated by Premnath and me, and then finally open it up to our cohort for an interaction. So let me start from the top. Renuka Diwan, she is the CEO and founder of BioPrime, and which is in the agri-tech sector. I've known Renuka again for the last couple of years since her big days. The company is based out of Pune, and she started BioPrime 2016, I believe. Right? And in the last 4 or 5 years, they've gained a lot of traction. And so please welcome Renuka. Let me then move quickly to Nusrat Sanghamitra. She is the co-founder and CEO of Cygenica, based out of, again, currently from Pune as well as from Ireland. She is from Ministry of Science and did a couple of postdocs from Japan and Netherlands before again starting the company in 2017. Nusrat has just raised venture fund from an Irish VC. So please welcome Nusrat. Then we have Anirudh. I was on a call with Anirudh yesterday morning. Anirudh is the co-founder and director of Jeevtronics, a medtech company in the defibrillator space. And Anirudh is a mechanical engineer. He has degrees from Wayne State, I think, and also from the Ross School of Marketing in the US. Spent a decade in Ford before starting the venture Jeevtronics around 2014 and 15. Then my friend Sachin Dubey from Module Innovations. I've known Sachin since he was undergrad BTech students, I think from 2012. Sachin is based out of both Pune and Bangalore. He has a medtech diagnostic company called Module Innovations that he started. He worked with NCL for some time. And Sachin is in the realm of antimicrobial resistance, is trying to find a rapid diagnostic kit for it, has raised quite a few non-dilutive funds, the recent one being a $3 million fund from Carbex, which is from the East Coast of the US. So welcome, Sachin. And finally, Mainak Chakrabarti, my good friend, the co-founder and CEO of GPS Renewable. Mainak, again, he grew up in Mizoram, right, Mainak, if I'm correct?
Yes.
And so a small town boy like me, I grew up in Sambalpur. And then Mainak did his BTech from Calicut, from National Institute of Technology, NIT Calicut. Then he was in IIM Bangalore. And then in around 2012, 2013, he started GPS Renewables. And, I had shared a link of Mainak video called The Internet of Biogas. It's an amazing video. You must all see it. And in the recent past, GPS is building Asia's largest urban organic waste management facility. And they have now 100 biogas plants across South Asia, across the globe, and also raised equity money from Triodos, which is a Dutch venture fund, and from Caspian. So this is, what amazing panel to discuss the relevant issues about startup journeys, right? And to our panelists, just as you have, as in my email I written to you, this cohort has, your DNA, and a lot of startups are there. Also people who are nurturing startups in terms of being an incubator leadership, as well as people in academia who want to build products too and take it to the market. So that's the cohort we have. And the kind of issues that we want to talk about are many. Again, we have maybe 50 minutes to talk about it, but these are some of the points. How did you go about doing things? To capture it in one line, I would say that. And how did you do things? That's it. And maybe in the end, talk about how did you tackle near-death experiences? How do you tackle turbulence like the pandemic? How did you navigate uncertainties and naysayers? So these are the few points that we will touch upon. This is being broadcast live, so please reveal as much as you can. But giving real life examples would be an amazing thing for us, for all of us, including me and the cohort. Right, let me bring in Premnath here. Premnath, you want to say quickly before we give, we start with 2 minutes of each of our startup founders?
Yeah, no, I think their stories are a lot more exciting. So let's begin with them. Yeah.
Okay. So let's start. I'll maybe go by 2 minutes of each. So let's start with Renuka, then Nusrat, and Sachin, Mainak, and Anirudh. I would request everybody to keep their to unmute themselves so that they can come in right at the time. Renuka?
Hi, good evening, and thanks for having us here. Real pleasure. So briefly, this is Renuka. I have a company called Bioprime Agri Solutions. Bioprime was founded by 3 researchers with the aim of bringing pride and profits back to the farmers. So we develop and discover biomolecules that mitigate climate change impact on the crops and help farmers reduce crop losses, help build profitability, and help them achieve yields that are better in terms of quality and get better market prices. At the heart of our discovery is our platform called Sniper, which helps us in discovering the different kind of lead molecules. We have currently 5 products which we have launched in 6 states. And we do this by 2 ways. We have our own distribution channel, setting up our own distribution channel. And we also have established strong partnerships with people who already have a distribution channel and trust with farmers. So I think that's in brief about BioPrime. Look forward to speaking more at different times.
Renuka, can you also tell us about your founding team, a little bit about that as well? Okay.
Yes, sure. So all 3 of us founders, we have done our PhD postdoc in plant sciences from University of Pune. I went on and did my postdoc in a collaborative project with Australia and Pune University. My other co-founder was working as R&D head in KF Bioplants, which is Asia's largest plant biotechnology lab. And my third co-founder was working in an entrepreneurship incubation center. So we've been friends. We've all done our MScs and PhD together. So we've been friends for 15 years before starting the company. And I might say our friendship is still strong. So even 5 years after the company, we're still best of friends.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Renuka. Nusrat?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Nusrat, founder and CEO of Cygenica. The Cygenica, we aim to build world's safest molecular delivery system so that we can enable cancer therapy in a safer way. We want to bring less pain while patients go through their therapy. That's our goal. And our delivery system, it's not a physical delivery device, it's a molecular delivery device. It can deliver effectively any kind of molecular cargoes, starting from small cancer therapy drugs to genome editing molecules like CRISPR-Cas9 and any kind of RNA-based therapeutics. So yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Team also.
Thank you.
Briefly about your team.
I remained a solo founder for 4 years, and end of 2020, my brother Fazlul joined as a co-founder.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. Thanks. Let's jump. I'll mix and match a bit here rather than go one by one. So let's bring in Mainak here. Mainak.
Hi Satya. So just to add on to what Satya had mentioned. So I'm the founder and CEO of GPS Renewables. We started this firm in 2012. The idea was to do our bit towards the whole waste problem. Back then there was no Swachh Bharat story and all of that. So the only possible option was to look at the private sector. So what we decided to build was a captive food waste to energy solution for urban establishments. Fortunately, BIG happened around the same time. So our initial, we were among the first set of the BIG first big recipients. That helped us in doing that initial bit of the R&D and all. Fast forward today, as Satya mentioned, we have around 100 such plants. This includes clients such as Intel, Cummins, Bosch, Microsoft, Reliance, Saint-Gobain, Taj, ITC Hotels, Marriott, Accor. Within educational institutions, almost every, all the leading educational institutions such as IITs, IIMs, BITS, Manipal University, Akshay Patra, and so on. So this is what we did. Thankfully, what happened post that was that, as you all know, the Swachh Bharat mission started. And that led to Satat and many other things in this sector, if people are familiar. So today, as they say, luck is important, and maybe fortune favors the brave and the resilient and all. So we stuck to our path. And today, by being there, we also have graduated. So we started off with plants which are in the scale which could process maybe around half a ton, 1 ton of waste per day. and all. Today, we are setting up what would be South Asia's largest organic waste to bio-CNG plant for the city of Indore. That's a 500 tons per day plant, which is being financed by India's largest climate fund, that is Eversource Capital. So today we work with some of the largest funds in the world and all. The ticket size, for instance, has increased from the ticket size of these projects have increased from the range of 10 to 20 lakhs to around 50 to 100 crores and all. So this is what we have done, and we have managed to do all this organically. The first time we raised a small amount of funding was last year. Otherwise, our journey had been organic. We had been profitable throughout except for 1 year. And so this is what we have done. As far as the team is concerned, the common link is I am Bangalore. We are all engineers and MBAs. None of us have any PhDs in all the core teams. So we have, when we started off, we had zero knowledge about biomethanation, microbiology, and a lot of the terms that we talked about. Having said that, over the years, yes, needless to say, we have built the team. We brought in members with relevant experiences and all. But the initial few years were all about getting the hands dirty and building that first POC and all of that. And today we have a much larger team with around 60 plus people. And also, this has been the journey so far. Happy to take questions going ahead.
Thank you. Now, Sachin.
Hi, hello everyone. Good evening, and thank you. I'm Prime, Dr. Satya, and Dr. Premnath for this opportunity. So, indeed, this is an excellent program, and I wish we had this program like 4 to 5 years ago. Life would have been a little simpler and better. But nevertheless, I am Sachin Dubey, the co-founder and CEO of Module Innovations, which is a healthcare startup that's based in Pune and a lab-to-market company of NCL. So I'm in engineering by training, and I come from Pink City, Rajasthan, the land of entrepreneurs. So two young lads, 23 years old, started this company with a lot of visions and a lot of struggles. Maybe that becomes a story in itself. But yes, so at Module, we are trying to revolutionize the way bacterial diagnosis is done and building some of the world's first and most rapid diagnostic tools for infectious disease diagnosis and again, antimicrobial resistance. So our current focus is right now on urinary tract infections. That again begins with a personal issue when one of the family member encountered UTI, and in Jaipur, we could not find a rapid mechanism and the patient had to suffer. So we began with UTI, which is a major problem, 150 million people suffering globally. We're trying to make two key products. One we call as USense, which is a point of care test, very much akin to a pregnancy strip. 15-minute test that detects the presence of organism that is causing UTI. So essentially trying to reduce a 24-hour culture to 15 minutes. And we're also developing a product called as AST Sense, which is the world's fastest phenotypic test for antimicrobial susceptibility testing, 2-hour test. So essentially the problem of identifying the pathogen plus doing the AST from 2 to 3 days has been shortened to 2 hours and 15 minutes. So recently we were funded by Carbax, and that made Module the first and only Asian diagnostic company to be funded by them. We get, like most of us, our journey as well began with BIRAC and BIG, funded by several national and international agencies for our efforts in advancing diagnostics. Right now, based at Venture Center, and would be great to communicate with everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Sachin. Maybe we can move to Anirudh. Yes, Anirudh, we can see you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's beginning. Yeah, now we can hear you. Go ahead, louder.
Okay. So thank you very much. My name is Anirudh. Thank you, Dr. Satya and Dr. Premnath, for inviting me on the panel. So I'm Anirudh. I'm the co-founder director of Jeeptronics. Jeeptronics is a Pune-based company, also part of the Venture Center ecosystem through its different programs. So our journey, so basically Jeeptronics is a company. We have developed the world's first hand cranked, or we say now dual powered defibrillator. For just a quick intro on defibrillators, for those who may not know, about it. It's a device that gives a high voltage shock to the heart of a patient who is suffering from cardiac arrest. So it's an emergency device used typically in ICUs. You may have seen it in movies where hold the paddles and give a shock. So that's the device. It's world's first in the sense if power fails, it can be hand cranked quickly in under 5 to 9 seconds, and you can save a patient. So that's the specialty of the device. Our journey quickly, we are two co-founders, Ashish and myself, both graduates, engineers from Pune University, then moved to the US. I went there in 1999, and we are basically automotive guys. Spent about 11 years at Ford in Detroit, Michigan. Also a couple of years in Chicago, actually. Basically, we did our master's and MBA from University of Michigan, master's from Wayne State, and MBA from Ross School of Business at University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. Then we moved back, and before this venture, we had another one called Bottom of Pyramid Energy and Environmental Innovations, where we were into human-powered devices. That's where our journey started, and that's how we got into this venture as well. With that background, we started with BIG, again, the flagship program of BIRAC, in 2019. So our journey started in 2014, actually. And by 2019, we started selling. So we are now in market in about close to 200 hospitals and a few ambulances where our device is deployed and working well in rather famous organizations or hospitals like AIMS, Nagpur, where we've been able to save COVID patients using our device. So it's a COVID relevant device. So we're based in Pune. We have our own manufacturing facility, and I'll be happy to walk through our journey or take questions as we move along on this wonderful panel. Thank you.
Great. So I think one common theme seems to be amazingly threaded through by BIG. And one of the best things that has happened to me is through BIG to know all of these amazing people who are trying to build a product and companies that are already creating impact in the market. So Premnath, I think, on the background, me and Premnath have been texting what questions to ask first to our panel. We have an early stage discussions, product development, funding, understanding the market, engaging stakeholders, and scale. I really want to understand scale. Not that you could be at early stage, doesn't matter, but what do you think about scale? Or scale, for example, what Mainak thinks of scale. He has really scaled. Let's start, as Premnath texted me saying that ask about leap, motivation, and choices and direction. This is because the audience is global, not anymore the cohort. For the benefit of the audience, how did each of you, decide to take the leap? Did anybody nudge you? Did anybody push you? What was your calling? And what made you decide that this is the path that I am going to take, right? Again, let me roll the dice and see who comes first. Let's start by Sachin.
Satya, can I add here also the choice of the business, right? That's also
Sure.
leap that you made, right? That you want to be in this line of business. And of course, there might be many, many people who might have given you different views on that, right? So comment on both of these. Yeah.
Right. So the moment of leap and the choice of the business.
Oh.
Sachin, your 2 minutes starts now.
So, after just finishing my MTech, most of my colleagues were going for PhDs in the US. I myself had the admission at UT Austin for PhD, but I remember the time when we came as a team to Able Best, where I met you. So I would say that the thought of being an entrepreneur was always there. which was demonstrated from many activities that I did during my college, some failed companies, some non-lucrative things that I did. But Able Best was one of the turning points where we decided that, yes, this is the way to go. Why into infectious disease was again a personal story where a family member got a urinary tract infection. And we thought that, oh, the science has developed so much, but still you need to do a culture test to identify the organism and again wait for 2 to 3 days. So that was the kind of motivation to enter into this area, and why particularly being an entrepreneur. So both these things were like this.
Thank you. So I think it's interesting, Premnath, that Sachin says, business plan competition can be triggers, right? And also personal story, right? So let's hear it out from Anirudh. Anirudh went last time. Let's bring him now. And then we'll jump to Mainak.
Yeah, I must also mention here that Sachin comes from a place where, taking jobs is secondary to doing business, right?
Yeah, so I never faced resistance from my family that why do you want to do this and not go for PhD in the US. So they were very cooperative.
Is that because, Sachin, as Premnath says, you are from Jaipur and therefore business runs in the air there?
Probably because we have this saying that jahan na jaye rail gadi, wahan jaye bel gadi, and then jahan na jaye bel gadi, wahan jaye marwadi. So we never wanted to go. I personally never wanted to go into conventional business because I've seen that, of course, those are also scalable, but I always wanted to apply the learnings of science into doing an entrepreneurship. So that is how it was.
Thank you. Anirudh, 10 years in Detroit, Ford, you could have had the corporate life. What made you take the leap?
Yes, so as I explained briefly, my background was, yes, as Dr. Satya pointed out, happily living a life in the US, had prospects of the regular American dream, so to speak, the green card and the citizenship and all that prospects. When I went to the US, was working there, always before going also had definitely made up my mind, Ash and I both, that we will come back to the US. So we didn't pursue many of the permanent residents and all of that, we didn't pursue there. We wanted to come back and do something good for India. And we had that social inclination, but we didn't have an idea as to what needs to be done, how to do it, and all of that. And then came Professor C.K. Prahlad. In 2004, we were his students at University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, where he, probably everybody knows the famous book, Fortune at the Bottom of the Pyramid, where he demonstrated through a number of case studies that there could be business models and there could be innovation even at the bottom of the pyramid. You could serve them while doing good. You can also create for-profit ventures. So that was kind of an inflection point or turning point that made us think that what can we do as engineers, as technologists, as Michigan MBAs, and really contribute to solving societal problems that can be solved with technology. And we also happen to be followers and sadhaks of Manashakti Ashram in Lonavala, where it's a research organization. It's based purely on science. It doesn't have any affiliation with any religion or anything, but their overarching belief and the teaching is whatever you do in your life, do 1 hour of good deed for the society. Try to see if any societal problem can be solved. And that was the inner inspiration. And then CK showed us how to do it. So with that, we came back and we had this crazy idea that can you pedal human power, can you convert it into electricity? Obviously, it's 100-year-old or 200-year-old technique, but then can you use it to solve the problem of electricity? Back then, almost 1/3 of India probably was without electricity. And so we developed this gym bike kind of looking bike, which you can pedal for 4 minutes initially. Our first prototype was 4 minutes of pedaling will give you 4 to 10 hours of electricity. And we use some of the modern, most advanced supercapacitor technology, batteries and all that we had from Ford, background from Ford. In fact, we got one supplier in China at that time to make the world's largest supercapacitor developed just for our application. So we did commercialize that venture, but it didn't do that well. But we did develop that skill set of utilizing human power and then fast charging electronics and all of that. So that was the core of it. And then we were presented with this opportunity, but this time we wanted to do a good round of market research to really understand who will be the buyer, who will be the customer, why will they pay, how will they pay, and all of that. So that started our journey. But all in all, we had this inclination toward the social side of it, and I guess I'll say that was the inflection point or the trigger point that got us into this.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mainak, same here. Engineer from NIT, then IIM, MBA. You could have had a corporate life as well. So what made you jump?
And why biogas?
And why
of course. So then, very quickly and keeping it brief. So first, why business? I come from a like a typical Bengali family, and PhD is normal, but business is not, right? So there was no motivation at home and all for this. That's never encouraged. Having said that, after engineering, I picked up a job in a large firm, and I knew that I did not want to do this. There's nothing wrong in working for a large company, but it's just that was not meant for me. And one of my first assignments happened to be a very interesting startup in Austin. It was like an on-site assignment and all. And I knew that this is exactly what I wanted to do. So the moment I came back, I started searching for startups, in Bangalore. This was in the pre-Flipkart era days and all. There were very few such, not too much exciting work was happening. So I kept searching, and I landed up at a startup. The founder was, he was a part of the core team that that built C-Dot, India's first, the RAT, that product which transformed India's telecom industry. So it was very exciting to hear about all those stories about Sam Petroda, etc. So that was very motivating, and that triggered one thing led to the other. So I since then, except for the first 1 year, I was always I had always been with startups. Then question was that why then came MBA. Again, thing is that what I also realized was that business was not in my DNA. I mean, it was never discussed, in the dinner table. Money was never discussed as if it was a bad thing and all. That's very typical of, if there are Bengalis, they can relate to that. So for me, MBA was again, for building a business, is an MBA needed? The answer is absolutely no. But depends. I mean, it also depends on person to person. For me, I think it had its. I did extract some good things and all. Having said that, I was clear that I was doing this to build my own stuff. So I had opted out of the placements of from IIM Bangalore. And back then, it was not very common to do your own thing and all. The other thing is that I'm coming to why biogas. When I had opted out, the crazy thing which I did was I did not have any idea as such. Like I was working with some other idea with another friend. He did, in fact, go on to start, as some of you might be aware of, Nestaway. I mean, that's again a large firm today. So, but when we were ideating on something back in college, it did not work out. So I still took the plunge. I had a loan. I did not have any such idea. I gave myself a year to figure out something, and I got in touch with few other friends who were willing to do something similar. So I got in touch with one of my seniors. His name is Sri Krishna. He had tried to start something back in the school, but it didn't work out. So we ideated, and one common thing was that we had anyway decided to do our own thing. And the common link was that what we thought was that if we are anyway doing this, let's do something with the social and environmental impact. Our belief was that climate change talks had started and all. Our belief was that this is the future. Sooner or later, everyone will have to start talking about it. And we were in Bangalore back then, couple of years back. Even today, one of the biggest problems in the city is waste. And we thought that why not do something around it. So waste led to waste to energy, and as we dug deeper, we realized that maybe there's a play out here, and so that was the genesis of GPS renewables and how I got into business.
Did you at the very beginning? What was your sense of how big a business you could build when you got started? That again, see, that's something at least we school does teach, right? I mean, at least some ABCs you do, like how big is the market and all. If the market itself is not big, then it's maybe not, then you should probably, it's not wise enough to look into that space. The waste management industry, even back then, it was a $1 trillion industry. So as a whole, the sector was big. We have even back then we had the same problems in every country and all. Obviously, in India there was a gap. There was no doubt about that. It's just that, there were a mix of technical and non-technical gaps and all. So the market was known, it was very big. It was all about, So, that's all we knew. What we felt was that when we did our initial, findings and all, by the way, when we started off, I had never seen a biogas plant, before deciding to do this. So, so during the early stages, we went around India trying to see, which are the good projects, and we could hardly find anything out there. And that gave us at least that feeler that maybe, it's worth the step. I mean, there seems to be a technical gap for sure, but there are other gaps also. There is a business gap. I mean, many things have not been done possibly well. That was our thought. And that's how we started. So again, to answer your question, I mean, the market we felt that was anyway big. And this was, the early part of the last decade. So unicorns had not become like a buzzword, but at least the aspiration, at least in our heads was that we wanted to do something which could again be possibly a multi-billion-dollar story and all. So that was the idea. We felt that here there is a possibility if we get the things right, if we stay on course, if we have luck, all that stuff. Okay, great. Yeah.
So good that the dinner table conversations didn't impact your choice, Mainak. I can completely understand being a half Bengali as well. Okay, let's move to Nusrat. Nusrat, PhD from
Sorry, breaking up. Satya.
Postdoc in Japan and in Europe. Okay, so again, for Nusrat, you could have been an academic, a prof. You've had a PhD from IISc, then postdocs from Japan and Europe. What was your moment of, to take the leap? Why did you decide on drug delivery? And what made you choose the path that you are on?
So in my case, it has been a much longer journey than what I have done as an entrepreneur, because as luck would have it, my dad got cancer when I was a PhD student. And that's when I decided to find a better drug for cancer. And I was very naive, and I thought I'm going to replace cisplatin. That will be really non-toxic and water soluble, and all those intention and aim was there. But at the end of my PhD, I realized that all those molecules, they showed excellent activity, but they were really, really toxic. All the mice died. That was very disappointing. And I thought, no, I just can't keep synthesizing new molecules and add to the existing arsenal of toxic molecules. I want to maybe understand what is happening inside. So I switched. I wanted to understand proteins, because drug targets are generally proteins. But as I never studied biology, nobody was willing to teach me that. Only Professor Majumdar in TIFR agreed to teach me a little bit of protein structure, etc. So I went to TIFR, spent 2 years, and that kind of gave me an idea what is a protein, what is folding and unfolding. So next few years, I was a Marie Curie fellow in Europe. And I didn't really do anything directly in cancer, but it was to understand the protein structure, etc. Then it was again out of serendipity that I met a professor from Japan who in a conference, and he wanted a chemist to do biology because Japanese government had come up with a very nice idea that if you put people from different disciplines together, and the new science comes up. So I found it exciting because I knew by that time how to make drugs, maybe how to synthesize molecules and what is a protein, but I didn't know what happens inside the cells. So it was exciting, and I joined that group, and they gave me an engineered protein and asked me to do cell biology with that. That was the only instruction I got. And I found, okay, I like labeling things with fluorescent dyes. So I labeled it, mixed it with iPS cells. That time, Professor Yamanaka got Nobel Prize. So in their lab, I learned learning cell culture straight from stem cells. So, and then I went and mixed this labeled protein with stem cells. And I had assumed that it will be maybe a network, but instead of that, I saw all the cells were colored, and that was exciting moment. I thought, what is happening? Why it happens? Because nobody ever thought that that protein is going to enter the cells. So that led to 4 years of research to investigate what happens, why did it happen, what was the mechanism. And at the end of that, I formed a hypothesis by which I can make anything cell-penetrating probably. But then that was not agreed by the professor. So I quitted there. I came back to India and I did nothing for 2 years just to re-energize myself. And that time BIG happened. So that was again the beginning. That's the common thread with all of us here. And why I chose instead of going to academia is, with all due respect, I couldn't feel inspiration in that in being an academic faculty. I didn't find it challenging, or I couldn't see through that what I'm doing is going to make somebody's life better in a realistic time frame. I felt the rat race of publishing in high impact journal that demotivated me. I felt I just don't want to keep publishing for the sake of publishing until it makes somebody's life better. So that I couldn't see there in academic ways for whatever reason. It may not be right. But that was my point. So I was thinking what to do. I actually went to KIT TBI to apply for maternal and child health SIF fellowship. But Dr. Suwar, he said, no, you have worked so much, and do you have some idea? I said, yes, I have, but I don't want to do all those. He said, no, you apply for BIG. If you don't get, I will give you a SIF. I said, okay, then he forced me to apply. And then everything started from there.
Yep.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Go ahead, please, Satya.
Renuka?
Yeah, so my story of starting up actually starts with Venture Center. So I happened to connect with Venture Center at a great point in our lives. We had decided to start up. I mean, not like a startup. We had decided that we wanted to do something, and were very clueless as to what we wanted to do and how we wanted to do it. And I remember speaking with Premnath sir for long periods of time, and he insisted that we should consider applying for BIG grant. And like for many people who come from an academic background, we understand science from a different perspective, not necessarily from a commercial implication. So I was very insistent upon that we don't have anything innovative that we can apply for. And he said, no, please go back and look at it from a different angle. At that point in time, I was also doing consultancy to different seed industries, biotechnology industries, plant tissue culture laboratories, anything and everything that was connected with plant sciences. Just so that we could understand the space better, because all three of us came from a technology background and did not really understand the commercial aspect of it or what the need was. So it was a time where we had 5 heat waves in one cropping season. that led to almost 96% of crop loss in tomatoes. And it was very disturbing for me to see that farmers struggled even to earn 1,500 rupees and had to really work hard to make the ends meet. I went to Naranga, which is 2 hours from Pune, and saw that. And the same evening, I was sitting with my friends where people like us casually spend 2,000-3,000 rupees on a dinner. And I felt that this is so wrong and something needs to be done. And so we started looking at this problem a little bit more closely. And I was really surprised that science had progressed so much in terms of academics, and so little of it was getting applied to in terms of commercially reaching the farmers. So we decided to take that up as an idea and applied for BIG. So two main reasons of starting up are Venture Center and Biogas. So we're here because of the great support that has been provided by this both these institutes. And agriculture, because I don't know, it probably comes from the fact that I grew up watching my grandmother tending fields in rural Solapur, and I thought that was very, very powerful, that there was a woman farmer who looked after fields, and it kind of resonated with me. So I think I carried that connection throughout my life. Maybe probably ended up doing plant sciences because of that. So yeah, that's basically my story.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Premnath,
Yeah.
you want to go? Renuka, thank you. Nusrat, thank you. I think if you just pause for 30 seconds and reflect on what's been said by all of you, Premnath, as you can see, and like all our cohort, there is a personal story behind the leap, right? And that could be because of a family member or seeing things in society. And the trigger points could be even a simple business plan competition. I think there is definitely a case for more business plan competition to be done. And again, whether you're from Jaipur or from places where business is not considered normal, it is finally the passion and inspiration that drives you. So thank you, all 5 of you, to point to what really led to the trigger. Let's get into the real business of it, Premnath, if we were.
Yeah, sure. Let's do that. Just before you do that, just a few more points. When you guys talked about the team also, many of you found your team members or your co-founders amongst your friends, your classmates, your family members, and so on, right? That actually is something which we see a lot of. That's also partly, in my opinion, because you have interacted with those people before any transactional discussions come up, right? So there is a different level of trust, a different level of understanding with them, which makes a huge difference in terms of what you wish to do. The equations are very, very different. So in all of your cases, I think it was so. Mainak's case, I don't know very much, but Mainak, who are your co-founders and where did you meet them?
So my co-founder is a senior from B school. So when I started off, so at that point I was looking for a co-founder, and today, of course, there are many accelerators who do exactly that. Connecting potential co-founders and all. In my case, as I mentioned, so I did not have an idea as such. So I was looking for, I was again connecting with potential co-founders and all. And back then there was no such ecosystem. So what I did was connected with fellow alumnus from my B school and all. While at college, also I tried to start something with another friend. Now, after graduating around that time, so what I did was I looked around for people who had tried to start something on their own, because there were not many startups back then. I'm talking around that 2012-ish time. So my co-founder, his name is Sri Krishna. I knew that he had tried to start something. He and another, of his batchmate, today he's a famous name, Sahil Barua, the CEO of Delivery. So Sahil and Sri Krishna, they had tried to start something when they were in college. It didn't work out, and hence they took up jobs and all. But I knew that he was he was entrepreneurial, and he had also been a part of the Free Software Foundation and all. He had been doing stuff around the whole idea of technology for good and all. So that is what I was looking for. So yeah, that's it. Again, I mean,
Okay.
the resort was same old network. That's the easiest thing to do. I mean, unless you have any certain ecosystem, that always is the easiest thing to do. That's what I did as well.
Yeah. The other point I just wanted to make here is that, many of you would have seen that you have to have some collisions to meet people, right? And there have to be opportunities for those collisions. And sometimes those opportunities may be because of an incubator, sometimes maybe because of a college, sometimes it may be because of an ashram, right? Or maybe, just any other such collision points, right? But just sitting idle and not letting that collision happen is not a solution. And also these networks are cultivated over a period of time, I think, and it just happens. So you have to be out there fishing, and then you might see some fish, right? If you're not even beginning, it doesn't really happen at all, right? Okay, so let's move on to the next topic. Satya wanted to keep it moving, I know. Sorry, but I thought I didn't want to miss this opportunity to talk about the team also. Yeah.
This last 20 seconds of what you said is very important in the relation where I am now in Berlin. So, okay, let's get on with a few other things to discuss. Okay, I think
let's talk about funding, Satya, and how they raise money, because that's the elephant in the room and everybody worries about that, right?
Yeah.
And what are the ups and downs there? So yeah.
Correct.
So I think yeah, let's begin with probably many of them started with BIG, and that was great. And Satya, I'm sure you're grinning out there, and you're also thrilled about that. But that said, soon after BIG, you hit the, you realize what's next, right? And somehow it seems like a precipice suddenly, and you need to raise money, you need to find be a lot more resourceful, and so on and so forth. So I want to understand from you, what are the kind of sources that you have tapped? How did you make your choices? Did you have choices? Did you have some thinking behind the sequence in which you want to go about it? When did you go about, say, raising commercial money? And if so, what were the costs in terms of, did you think you could have done better as far as raising commercial money is concerned? So maybe we can start with Sachin, and then we'll rotate it. Satya, okay?
Sure. Yeah. So I remember the day when we applied for BIG. So it was our second attempt when we qualified for BIG. So during my first visit to Delhi in the lift, as a 24-year-old boy having no experience of this industry, I bumped into Dr. Renuswarup, ma'am. And I did not know who she is before actually entering the committee room and seeing that she is Dr. Renuswarup. So unfortunately, during our first attempt, we did not go through. And as young blood, we are so energized. I kept on bugging her that what is the reason, tell me the technicalities and all of that. But we realized that yes, sometimes there are lackings and you need to improve. So from that we learned perseverance. And I am really grateful to Dr. Premnath and Ranchi Center that we refined our proposal and sent it again to be selected in the second attempt. So yeah, the journey began with that. And time flew. We thought this 50 lakhs would be enough to make a big company, but it went so fast that we did not realize that we needed follow-on funding. So that was again a lesson that it's almost 5 to 6 months of time that you need to close a investment deal. And fortunately, at that moment, we were able to raise some investment from NSTDP via Venture Center. So that kept us sailing. But importantly, I realized that in this area where we are working, there is a lot of non-dilutive funding available. And at that point, I thought, of course, there could be different views of people that it's only a grant supported company and a venture capital invested company. But I realized that it makes more sense to bring in venture capital money when you are at a certain point. And if you are able to move from one milestone to another through these non-dilutive fundings, then why not? So we acquired that route, and luckily we have raised around 4 million so far, out of which only 50 lakhs is an investment, and the rest of all of it is non-dilutive funding. So now we stand at a position in a better commanding position where we have something to show to investors and maybe get good valuation. So I personally feel that for module innovation, there could have not been a different route that we could have acquired. Of course, with some agencies like Carbex, the scale changed completely. So that was something which changed the fortunes for module. But yes, we did go with this kind of a funding strategy.
Yeah. And, as they say, entrepreneurs sometimes are advised, stay there long enough and luck will turn your side, come to your side. But stay there long enough and stay at it, and don't keep, looking here and there as well. Mainak, how about you?
Yeah, so in our case, the unfortunate reality of, so to say, the tech for good, I'll put it that way in generic way, the space is that, here the vanity metrics do not work, which work very well for the, the e-commerce, m-commerce, whatever you call it, those spaces. You have to be profitable. I mean, otherwise, that's the end of it in most of the cases and all. I'm talking most of the companies out there. So that is the challenge. And as you rightly said, that whole valley of death, right? You have big, you get big. What next? And then you have you have the PE funds and all. I mean, once you get to a certain stage, yes, there is a lot of good money out there. But how do you cross that bridge? So in our case, again, this is like given our backgrounds and all, and again. Me, my co-founders, and people who joined later, all of us come from a similar backgrounds. Like we did not have any family money to put in. So we had zero capital. The only capital that we had was the intellectual capital, and our the sweat. So post big, that was definitely a challenge. The only way was so we grew the business organically. Having said that, there were a few very important pillars in this journey. Caspian was one. So with Caspian Impact Investment, we had a purchase order financing model. So that turned out to be extremely useful. So basically the way, I mean, if people are not aware, the way it works is that in our case, if you would get an order from a marquee client, you would give that purchase order to Caspian in simple terms. And in 2 days, you'd get 60% of that purchase order value to finance that project. So that was super helpful and all. So at the same time, again, today there are many more such options out there. Back then there was hardly anything out there. So Caspian was just like similar to BIG. Caspian was a very very important pillar in our case. And again here this is again non-dilutive. It was like I'm talking of NBFCs here, just like what Sachin spoke about. We also had been fortunate to have received 2 more grants from DBT. So we got BIPP followed BIG. And we had one more, grant and all. But yeah, I think the early years they were, non-dilutive funding, but in our case in the form of debt. And now to get debt in India, you have to be profitable. You have to be very, that has to be sorted. Your P&L and all has to be sorted. Otherwise, that is ruled out. So that's what we did. And thankfully, and as you said, the last point, it's about staying there. We stayed there and all, and then finally we were from this sector. We were all waiting for the larger push to happen. That happened. Today we have a policy, for instance, called Satya, As a part of that, if you set up a large bio-CNG plant, you can sell the gas to someone like GAIL, IOCL, and so on. So suddenly, the sector has heated up and all. As I mentioned, so today we are working with some of the largest climate funds and all. So in a way we have been able to skip that that whole VC phase and all, and directly go on to large scale funding and all. Like there is one of our largest accounts today. It is a greater than $100 million account. But that sounds good today, but behind that was a very long valley. So that was the challenge for us, and yeah, that was the answer to that in our case.
So just a couple of quick questions. How did you match your funding for BIPP? Did you raise any other kinds of, because it requires matching funding, right? So you'll have to raise other money.
That was accruals and all from that was accruals
from your internal accruals. So, and in your case, I think you could build a model where you could be profitable fairly early and build some reserves, I presume, right? To fund that.
That was, in a way, but that was also the intent. We realized that we have to do something. I mean, maybe, many people took that path that, get into bio-CNG and, do all of that. We decided that, that is far away. I mean, who is going to finance these projects now? So what we did was, and again, on similar lines, let's say if you talk of, corporation projects and all, government tenders, you need pre-qualifications and all. You cannot simply do that. Again, you need working capital for that. How do you apply for these tenders and all, right? So that's where what we thought was that given our backgrounds, maybe a practical thing to do would be to build something which we can sell quickly. And within this very whole, waste management space, and coming back to your question, how big the market is very big. But what we picked up was to start up with, we picked up a very small the smallest subset of that, which was, coming up with a solution that could be sold to the largest corporates in the world. And that worked for us. So here, I mean, we managed to, with this product, we had a option to pitch to the largest corporates. With them, the PQ or working capital, some of the early clients were very supportive and all. For, as they always say, the first sale or the first set of sales is always an emotional sale and all, right? I mean, and often, it's about finding the right customers who can support you. So we managed to do that. So that started the journey, and again, and one thing led to the other.
Anirudh, do you want to go next? You have a story of bootstrapping, and at the same time, you have tried to leverage a lot of bank finance, and that is, of course, it has its own challenges. So maybe you can share some of those insights.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we have been a bootstrap company. Obviously, our journey of funding started with BIRAC, BIG, the flagship, and then we did get follow-on funding from BIRAC in terms of from the IIPME program, and also looking at the progress we had done Indo-US Science and Technology Forum, the IUSSTF. They also funded us. So those 3 grants were very, very helpful. Really grateful to those organizations. And then later on also PATH, Social Alpha. So that provided us the initial funding required in the development stage, because in our case, it's a Class C device, a high-risk device with a lot of regulatory testing required, as well as collection of clinical data and things like that. So obviously, these grants came in really helpful, where private capital would not take the risk, at least not in India, where I still believe, even after so many interactions with many investors, I still believe that the private investing ecosystem is still in its nascent stage. I mean, it has come a long way, but it's still nascent, unlike what I had seen in the US. Dr. Premnath referred to our luck with the banks, as we can say. Here, we approached our existing bank, where we had a nationalized bank, where we had the history with them. We had maintained good standing and things like that. Obviously, all our grant funds were, we didn't divide it into many banks or anything like that. And it kind of built the relationship. And I would like to just point out that becomes very, very handy. Actually, In our case, we do have that challenge that if you approach any bank, even today, they will ask you questions. What kind of Minus pointed out that show your PNL and how many years of profit and show me purchase orders and typical things like that. We do experience, have that kind of experience as well. But in our case, we were able to raise that timely working capital limit based on our background, our journey, the promising market potential that we had, and most importantly, the progress that we had done. So we were able to raise that small working capital as well as a term loan from our existing bank. And I would encourage to all the listeners here that don't give up on the Indian banking, although it is painstaking. I mean, it is not easy, but there are schemes from the central government, and now the government is even more ready to listen to different schemes to startups and entrepreneurs. So that came in handy. That's how we approached, and then we showed traction based on that. It really helped us get into the market, buy inventory bigger than what we were actually selling and things like that. Because we happen to be in the electronics industry and semiconductor, the minimum order quantities are quite large. I mean, they're really, compared to if you do a sales volume to the inventory ratio, it's quite skewed actually. So you have to buy a really high amount of inventory, and that came in handy in the initial working capital that we had from the bank. We showed the traction, and then now we have, good prospects. We're open to private investment always. With private investment, I just make a small comment that private investment comes in, yes, with its own set of expectations and challenges. But unlike the financial, the debt funds or the grants, they offer you much more flexibility in how the funds could be utilized. They're more open to listening to different ideas, bringing in the manpower, the experienced manpower, the mentor networks, and the advisors, things like that, which a typical bank would not bet on.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, it has to be positioned, and it has to be timed at the right moment.
Sure. One thing I should point out to everybody here is Anirudh and his colleague Ashish are probably one of the best in project management and ironing out all details of what's going to happen when. So I can imagine that they must be watching their finances like a hawk and doing that as well. And that comes from obviously their automotive industry background, and the detailing that they do there. Nusrat, you're next. You actually, leveraged even an accelerator, an international accelerator, and one of the things fascinating is you're willing to go anywhere to get things done, right? Wonderful. But I would worry about going to Japan and with little worries, and then over to Ireland and so on and so forth. So tell us about how you planned your fundraising.
I think I didn't plan anything. I was like, I didn't understand what is a startup. I didn't understand anything at the end of BIG. But it's all a story of serendipity again, because I think I still don't remember when I applied for Rebel Bio. I think I was doing some Google search and randomly applied something, and got one day a call from their CSO that we want to talk to you. I said, why? I said, about your science. I was thinking, why this John Kerrigan, somebody from somewhere, wants to talk about science. I thought, okay, let me just talk. There's no harm in talking science. So I just spoke to him, and then one call led to another, and I got to Rebel Bio. And I was like, because you said you will be worried about things, I am remembering what I had thought at that point of time. Because before that, whenever I went abroad, I went to either Oxford or Leiden or Kyoto University, which are like well-known places in the world. So I was not afraid, but this was somebody called SOSP, something called Rebel Bio Accelerator. I thought, what are they going to do with me? Are they going to put me in jail if something, maybe there's some terrorist organization or something they will do. But I thought, okay, in the worst case, what will happen? They will not kill me, right? So let me just take it. And I asked them, are you going to ask me to give you back those 100K? Because I'm not a rich person. I don't have that much money to give you back if something goes wrong. He said, no, don't worry about that. You're not going to give back in that way. So I just took that because they were saying that they will teach you entrepreneurship. They will teach you how to build company. Chance. And that's how Rebel Bio happened. And it was an amazing program. I think everything I learned there, because I formed the company just to be able to go to Rebel Bio. And that was a 4 months program. It's a kind of a pressure cooker environment, like too much of, like I was starting the day at 8 and ending at 12 o'clock, still doing experiments in my rented apartment. I'll carry all the PD10 columns and pipettes and tips and ice box to complete, because they wanted to see the POC then and there. And the whole day there were a lot of meetings with all investors and everybody. So anyway, that was a whole story. So that happened. And then they chose me one of the top 5 to give next round of 150K. I honestly didn't understand anything, convertible loan, not or whatever. But what I had realized is my work is very different. It's a molecular drug delivery system. It's like a new drug. And I could sense for whatever, or intuitionally, that it's hard to raise money in India. So I just took that chance. I thought maybe that is the place to go. During that, of course, it didn't happen on the first time, like over those 4 months and the next few months, I got through Enterprise Ireland's scholarship program. So I stayed on. I thought that is the network I can take advantage of. So those were the money that came after BIG. And out of another serendipity, I got to BPCL was interviewing people for their Ankur startup grant. And I just entered on that particular day to KIT TVI, and somebody asked me, just go and give interview. So I just gave and they selected me. So that money saved me when I changed my focus from oncology to genome editing therapeutics. I needed to survive for long until I proved the proof of concept. And it was because I never studied CRISPR or anything. It took really long time for me to prove the first proof of concept. I could survive thanks to BPCL grant. And then recently we raised the seed money, that's 1.4 million USD. And that is from SOS Ventures and other angel investors. So if you have any.
And also briefly, one of the other interesting things I saw was a complete transformation in your pitch. And Nusrat was winning every elevator pitch competition around.
Okay, thanks to Bill for that training. That was a tough training, I would say. I mean, very few people can survive Rebel Bio, to be honest. Bill will teach you every week. Every Friday, we were in a pitch training from morning 9 o'clock till evening 4 o'clock. And only 15 of us, we will only speak for 3 minutes, but rest time is grilling you like dogs and cats. He can tear you apart, and he will bring people who can tear you apart. How you are standing, what should be the angle of your head, what should you wear, and what should be the he brought a decibelometer to hear what is the sound, how loudly you can speak. He asked me to go to a water, like I went to a waterfall and found a place where nobody is there and shouted at the top of my voice to create that voice. So I did everything to learn that. So that was a 4 months every week training. So first time he said, just explain everything with 5 images. And that's how he taught us without looking into the slides. So you have to look to the audience so that you don't lose the connect with the audience, and just with your clicker, you speak. So that was a tough training.
Yeah, that's good food for thought for all our participants. And Anmol will give you the role of being Bill for this program, right? Okay, Renuka, in fact, in your case, I also wanted to talk a little bit about partnerships, because that lead into what Satya is going to discuss towards the next 15-20 minutes. Yeah.
Yes. So after BIG, what is always a big question. But I think in one of the venture center sessions, I don't know who said it, but the sentence resonated with me so much. It was said that there's no money better than customer money. And so I kind of like etched it in my heart. And from very early on, we started selling our products, probably even before something what's called as a MVP. So we like literally gave products to whoever would buy it and take feedback. And a lot of iteration also happened with the feedback that was coming in. So we had clients, institutional clients as well from the very first year. So that was a very good support in terms of developing the product. So we've had almost 5 crores worth of sale in the past couple of years. And we followed Sachin's model of, pitching and winning competitions and raising money through that. So we raised almost over 2 crores of rupees through just pitch competitions. So almost over $1 million has come without diluting from sales and pitch competitions. And I think that was really great. Taught us a lot about the industry, the product, the customers as well. We have a very small equity fund that is come from Biogas. In fact, we'll look at an active fund. We are looking at active fund rates towards the end of this year, planning one towards the end of this year. So all this has helped us get to a stage where now we think we are ready for VC kind of a money where we understand our product, market, customers better. And that's where the partnership comes in, because I think it's the partnership with corporate that helped us go to different areas than what would have been possible just by us. So we were selling the products only here in Western Maharashtra and were very happy with the results that we got. The farmer adoption here is different. The farmer understanding here is very different. And we went to UP with these partners and discovered a completely different world where we understood that the same kind of product and form cannot be accepted by the farmers there. And that meant largely all over the India. So that partnership helped us define what was acceptable by the customer, how to ask the right kind of questions, where to ask the right kind of questions, and iterate the product along the way. So we almost took 1.5 years to reiterate the offering and the product. And I think it was very, very vital that this partnership was in place for us to be able to do that. Otherwise, it would not have been possible to do those kind of pilots and commercial pilots that too in UP, Jharkhand, Bihar. I don't think it would have been possible just by us. So partnerships, strategic partnerships have accelerated our learning, have helped us, avoid pitfalls, and just, I think, develop a better product and offering. So yeah, I think it's very, very vital. So yeah.
Sure. So over to you, Satya. I think you can take it to the.
Yeah.
I thought I'll give Satya a little bit of a break. He had his second dose, and so I thought we should give him a little break in between.
I was down and out yesterday, but that's great conversation listening in. I just wanted to continue. Can I ask for all the audience cohort plus the panelists another 5 more minutes or 7 more minutes? Is that okay? I'm taking it as a yes. Let's move on. So, two things. I think I don't want to drop in here the line of thought that we are having. And I just wanted to go pinpointedly ask Mainak and Nusrat. I think both of you have raised money from the commercial world, and also ask Sachin about
Sorry, we lost
First
you there,
question
Satya.
to Mainak and Nusrat is this. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Now
yeah.
can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
better. Yeah, go ahead.
So once the fundraise has happened, Mainak, in your case, and Nusrat too, what changed in terms of board dynamics? Were you prepared for, to deal with the board? Were the new realities that you didn't anticipate and that was a learning? What happened then? So this is a question to Mainak and Nusrat. And the question to Sachin is this. All of us on the panel have raised grant money or award money. But Sachin, you have raised close to 3 million from Carbex, right? And it is, again, grant money, but I guess if the flavor is different because it's the international grant money. I wanted you to tell the cohort and the audience, how did you, land Carbex money, and what kind of things you learned while getting an international funding of $3 million, right? With almost 750,000 as first tranche. So first question to Mainak and Nusrat.
Yeah, Satya. So in our case, to be frank, it we did not see much of a change. That's probably also because we had tried to ensure a certain level of corporate governance from the very beginning. So just to give an idea, when we incorporated, more or less in the first year itself, we had set up our own board even when the money was not there. We had managed to get a chairman of this nature of Mr. V. Subramanian. He was the ex-secretary of MNRE. I mean, he's on the board of Adani and such companies. I mean, so we were nowhere close. Having said that, when he was a secretary at MNRE, he was instrumental in setting up the solar mission of India. He wanted Biogas story to grow also. So he believed in what we are doing and all. So we were able to, so again, we had to pitch to him also. But it did help that we had him. And given that he was on the board of some of the largest corporates and all, that did help. And similarly, very soon we brought in another independent director. Her name is Pratima Ram. She's on the board of Cadila Group, etc. She was the CEO of Indian Infoline et al. So with independent directors like them, we had ensured corporate governance from the very beginning, and in a way, it does help in fundraise also. Then people see that, of course, that certain tick marks, certain green flags are there. So that way, once our investors joined, there was not too much of a change. Another thing is that when we raised our the last round, so one of the investors was Caspian, and we had been anyway working with their debt arm. So we were, anyway familiar with their reporting formats and things like that. So usually one of the things, sudden thing that happens is that apart from the board meetings and all the way they are conducted, the other thing is that reporting and etc. such stuff. So that is something that we had been doing. Now on similar lines today, just to give an idea, just to quickly wrap up also, today, for instance, as I mentioned, today we are fortunate enough to be executing, some of the largest biosynthetic projects in the country. We are working with the largest, climate funds and all. And so in a way, we are, by doing this, we are already kind of, familiar with the kind of reportings, that they expect and all. So it's, on the job training, so to say. So for our next round, which is, for the next round, etc., we are, in a way, we can say that, we are kind of, hopefully we are prepared because, similar to the last round. So in our case, that was the thing. So maybe on that point, maybe my very humble advice would be that, for any startup, I think, who's trying to raise money, it always helps to, ensure corporate governance from the very beginning. That did help us for sure. Yeah. Today, there is a lot of buzz around ESG, all that stuff. So it does help. So, and that can also, the other thing is that can help in the transition part also that you asked.
Yeah, in our case, in my case, just with the second follow-on funding from SOS Ventures, it was a small amount of money, but still, Bill asked me that you are not focusing on corporate governance. That's the first time I heard the term. I Googled it, what it is, and then I started working on that. So we had a first board meeting at that time. And in terms of, as Mainak said, the reporting is one of the key things. So with this fresh round of funding, we have pushed it to quarterly reporting, but we are accustomed to report to SOSB monthly on a monthly basis. And I have calls with Bill is chairperson of the board, and I have weekly calls with him. So he is on top of everything, what is going on. And he has, I have tried keeping, say, for example, as maybe you know that I have an Irish entity and I have an Indian entity. And to just keep the things clean, so far I maintained everything that I have spent in Ireland. I did it from the Irish money, and whatever I did it in India, I did with Indian grants money that I have raised. So that made it very simplified. So they were very concerned, but I think with this round of funding, they asked us all the documents, and then they were very happy with that everything was very clean. So there was no money transfer from there to here, or they didn't have any concern. And I'm still trying to find more board members, because we have to have 5 board members. So I'm just learning now to see to build the board now.
No, thank you, Nusrat and Mainak, for calling out corporate governance. And I think this is a big call out for all our cohort and rest of the audience anywhere. No matter how small or big you are, I think that is very important to think about corporate governance, reporting, data packages that you should be having from day one. So just bringing in Sachin, and then I think we don't have much time, we've got 10, 12 minutes more, but I wanted to address 2 more important questions to the panel. But Sachin, what was your experience of raising 3 million from an international grant?
Right. So Carbex, we know it's a big body and sits almost on $1 billion fund. So though they are like a granting agency, they work very much similar to what an investor would. So instead of quarterly, we have monthly reporting. So it's very stringent, but the good part with this, so with Carbex, things were very much transformational, as I would say, working with the Indian agencies and the international agencies. So that was one major difference that we realized. Of course, it was a very tough journey. So it was a 5-stage journey, which culminated into, the shortlisted people presenting at Boston. So imagine like 40 to 45 people, all with white hairs or with no hairs, from NIH, BARDA, NHS, MIT, Harvard, sitting, and we two people looking, very naive there. So it was a great experience, and it was also a testimony to the kind of science we do. So we got a confidence that yes, the work that we are doing is competitive internationally, and because Module was the only Asian diagnostic company to have received it so far out of around 74 projects that have been funded. So that again makes it great. So I realized with Carbex that with the kind of money that comes in, the scale will change significantly. So we were able to quickly expand our team, expand our product development portfolio. Everything was very, very, very quick. The attitude that came with Carbex is that don't worry about the money. You just need to get the things done fast. So if you want to hire 10 more people, you do that. We provide you the money. So that was an attitude which was sort of never seen here, and it changed our thought processes also. That yes, we need to get things fast. If money is there, then they are ready to give. So it was transformational for us, I would say.
Okay, thank you. I think this is great about corporate governance and understanding international funders and their the way they use the lens of governance and logistics operation. Premnath, let's move on to, we don't have much time, 10 minutes maybe max, just on product and scale and engaging stakeholders. I think there are 3 things, maybe 3 questions and quick 2 minutes from some of our panelists. I just wanted the product question to be dealt with. And I don't want to go into POC to validation and all of that. I want to go straight into the market. So, and this is a question again then to Anirudh and Mainak in terms of what were your learnings when you went first time into the market with your biogas, or Anirudh, in your case, the defibrillator. You said you've done 200 hospital installation. Mainak, you rattled off, so many names, Intel and others who are using. But what was the key learning you had, when you took the first product into the market?
Can I add a sentence there, which is, the kind of insights you got from the market in shaping your product and your strategy? Can you talk a little bit about that? But please keep it brief.
Yeah, sure. So our product went through various iterations. When we built the first prototype, it was, when I look back, there were too many shortcomings and all. Now the one way is to maybe spend a couple of years and get everything right and all. Maybe in some cases that is the only way to do that. In our case, but what we did and what worked well for us is that we did, based on whatever we thought was right, managed to convince in our case Akshay Patra, and that led to a few more clients. Then when we approached the hospitality industry, with the same product, again there were a few people who championed this, who acted as mentors and all, and they told us that this is simply not up to the mark. There are a lot of safety gaps, etc. and all. So that made us, so we incorporated those ideas and all. So it was a journey, like HSE. We did not even think about those aspects. Today, when we see, that's the first thing we talk about in our PPTs and all. So in our case, maybe we went through at least 4 or 5 iterations and all. And finally, when we got to the the Fortune 500 companies and all, they had their own set of obviously expectations, like an Intel or a Microsoft. Even if these plants are being set up in India, the expectations are the same as what they would do, say, in the US or anywhere else in the world. So these were, in our case, yes. Just to just to summarize that, it was all this feedback came from the clients. We incorporated that and all, and that is the path that we took.
And right now, when you're scaling for Satat, it's going to be a completely different ball game, right? In terms of scale. So briefly about that, because that game has changed.
Yes, absolutely, yes. Sorry about the background, that's my daughter.
Yeah.
So now, absolutely, yes. Now, having said that, so here what we're doing is, so just to give an idea, and hopefully, we have a responsibility today also, because some of these projects, if they turn out to be successful, they would define the industry and all. So I'll pick 2 examples. One is a project that we're doing for Indore. That's the cleanest city in India, and some of you might be aware. And if hopefully this will be the flagship project of the country in this sector. Now, when we talk of 500 tons per day, a project nowhere close to this has been ever done in India. Now, in this case, so what we did was, and that is a question even our clients, everyone had, needless to say. So what we did was, here we have a truly international team. Our chief designer is from Germany. We proactively brought on board owners engineer. They are from Spain. It's a global team with a lot of experts all across the world, because they have been there, done that. At the same time, the challenge for us is to deliver all these projects at an Indian cost, because the the ecosystem, the economics are very different. So here, what we did also was that when we talk of engineering, for instance, we followed the same the IT model and all. Where we have a few people, the supervisors, the people who give the guidance, sitting maybe somewhere in Europe, but the actual engineering work happens in India, because we have a huge talent base in our engineering talent base. So this is what we did for Indore. Similarly, some of you might have heard about Paddy straw, parali to biogas and all. So again, nothing of that sort has been done in India. There is a lot of talk, but there is no successful project out there. So here again, we have an exclusive tie with a German company and a Chinese company, and together, they have that experience. So we reached out, and again, what these companies also they want to do is, and today at this scale, to summarize, our focus on in a way on technology commercialization, in the sense that the tech companies, they don't want to work with a trading company, right? So here we can talk in the same language. We have our own patents. They know that we respect IP. So that does help. So that has helped us today now, as we are growing, and as the company is transforming from our own manufactured products to something way larger and all, where there are multiple technology pieces and all. So there the approach is very different. So we work with it's all about collaborations, but doing collaborations in a very balanced way and all, and doing a mix of local and local engineering, value engineering. So certain core pieces come from Europe, and rest we do in India. So this is what we have been doing.
Thank you.
Anirudh?
Anirudh, yeah.
So in our case, user feedback when we initially rolled out the product in hospitals and all that was very, very crucial. We were, in our case, we were up against a legacy of devices only from MNC companies. So these are large companies like the Philips and GEs of the world. And here's Indian company, and that in healthcare and med devices, med tech. Unfortunately, it's like anything coming from the Western side. Western world is considered far better, although there may not be enough knowledge about that device yet. Something coming from the Western world is considered better compared to Indian company. But so that was the challenge. However, as we rolled out the products, there was good feedback. Obviously, our hand crank feature is the world's first one. And initially, choosing the right set of customers was very key. So, for example, if we initially went directly to large corporate hospitals, then and tried to sell them a concept of a hand crank that it would power your device when there is no power. But then in large hospitals, there's not much lack of power. So the value proposition for them is a different one. It's the total cost of ownership, the savings which they realized and which we realized after many rounds of market research. So basically, we did about 5 extensive rounds of market research to understand the user, to understand the customer, and all of that. The other thing was that once you have this feedback, it's what we realized is it's quite important to be agile in terms of incorporating that feedback that will improve your product offering. So let it be through quick changes on the software side. Obviously, with a medical device, you have to be careful in the sense that you have to cover all grounds, risk management and clinical risk and patient safety and user safety and all of that. But if you are as much agile as possible in incorporating the quick feedback and give the customer what they are really looking for. So in our case, tweaking some of the features, like a simple one but very quite useful feature is adjusting the screen brightness, for example. If somebody looks at a patient monitor screen and if the doctor feels that now it needs to be a little bit brighter, you should be able to do that. And thankfully, with our architecture, we were able to do it. So things like that made a lot of difference. So I would say the agility in doing those changes, yet making sure that the core architecture remains the same, bringing in modularity in the design early on really helps, so that you can still be able to test your device, not negatively impact safety features and which are important in medical device. So that has been our experience in launching and adjusting to the product, to the market needs.
Listening to the customers, as both Mainak and Anirudh have said, is so important. I just wanted to bring in quickly, Renuka, you worked with farming communities and communities really on the ground in some ways. What have been your learnings from them?
It's been very challenging from the time that we tried to get our very first customer. So we went and we actually saw a problem that we wanted to solve. So when we had the solution, which worked wonderfully in the lab, and we wanted to validate it on field, we thought that farmers were literally going to roll out red carpets for us. And when we went there, that was not the case. And rightly so, because farmers had been taken for a ride for a very long time now. People have sold anything to them, including sand, saying that this is a miracle product. So winning farmers' trust was very, very important and very challenging, because we don't look like them, we don't speak their language, and Even though that was in Maharashtra, I'm not even talking about going to different states, which is a completely different ball game. So that took quite a lot of persevering from our side to just get the very first farmer. I think we went there 8 times and he turned us down 7. And just on the 8th time, he was so fed up of me going there all the time. And the villagers asking him, ki, ye ladki kyun aati hai baar baar? So he thought, just let me give this, 2 rows, let them do what they want to do. And fortunately, that turned out so well that people started coming and asking them, ki, why are these plants looking so different than the rest of your field? And so other farmers kind of followed. But when we went to other states like UP or Jharkhand or Chhattisgarh or Bihar, it was very different from what is happening here in Maharashtra. Their farming techniques are different, their agronomy is different, and very interestingly, the reason I went to these states is also because we partnered with this company, and they were to take our products to these places, and we did a very good trial run before they took our products or onboarded our products. But when they onboarded our products, they came back and said, ye chal nahi raha hai. And I'm like, what do you mean chal nahi raha hai? So they said, aake dekh lo. So I said, okay. So I went to the fields and we realized that it's just the agronomic practice that is so different that is leading to a problem of the product not being taken up by the plants. So it was not a problem of the product not performing. It was a problem of the way the farmers were using it, and we had never thought that aise bhi kuch ho sakta hai. So from that time on, we decided that we will always keep a focus on who and where and how they are going to use the product very first. So we always now travel to the fields very extensively, are very, very on ground and hands-on approach. So even if our new channel partners tell us ki nahi aane ki zarurat nahi hai, we say nahi, we are coming. So I think that's been a learning that you can never be too far from the customer. So our idea actually when we did channel partner was that we develop the products, they take it to the market, and okay, good, we don't have to deal with the other stuff. But as now we onboard more and more channel partners, we find that that can never happen. You have to be very, very close to your customers, no matter how many experienced channel partners you add. So staying close to the ground always is very vital, and understanding the entire process of not just how and for what he's using the product, but other cultural aspects also becomes very important, because that can mean the difference between a good commercial product versus just a good technology.
Wonderful. I mean, as you said, keeping the customer close to you and understanding his or her sentiment is so important. We have really run out of time. If many things to talk, I know Mainak is smiling, Sachin is as well, Renuka and Nusrat too. There are 2 questions I have, but maybe 3, but I'll probably drop one and just ask 2 and quick 30 seconds, replies. I know you all have been patient. So are our cohort. We still have enthralled 45 people listening to all of you. One was about change of product strategy. I really wanted to address that for our cohort. Renuka, you mentioned that the product didn't work because of, they thought the product didn't work, your customer, but it actually did. But I know about Sachin, and maybe with Nusrat, you said you changed your focus from oncology to CRISPR-Cas. And Sachin, I remember you had mentioned once to me a long time back that you also changed the product itself some time back, right? And Mainak, maybe you too have. So has there been a time in your product development life cycle where you stepped back and said, maybe we need to change the product, keep the product basic architecture same, but maybe change the product for the market? If that has happened, can you tell us quickly, a minute, each of you, Mainak and Sachin and Nusrat, if you have, what went through your mind and how did you change it? Mainak, starting with you.
Not maybe the product as such, but as I mean, in fact, what Premnath was also asking, right? What the industry is looking for. I mean, our offerings have gone through a change, so that requires, so that has happened. So in our case, not the product, yes, but our offerings and what we are doing today, we do small to large scale plans, and that's a completely different ball game. So that meant, bringing on board different team members, a change of the mindset completely. This is more about project management, project integration. The previous thing was about, it was a product, so to say. So yeah, I mean, so in our case, it has happened, but I did not get the question as such, like any specific question. Sorry, Satya, like it did not get.
No, this was not specific in that sense. The specificity was if you're developing a product and you realize that you need to change the product attributes altogether, right? So whether that has happened, so you mentioned about offerings changing. That is great. Yeah. Sachin and Anirudh, have you had such instances where you looked at the product and said maybe our attributes of the product has to change?
Yeah. So if I can start with that, so it wasn't the product per se, but the kind of technology, or I would say the ability of the technology to scale, that made us pivot. So the initial technology that we began with was also very promising, but over the time we realized that this is something which as a product would not be able to scale to the extent that we are intending to. So being a point of care device, it has to work at the patient's bedside. It needs to be portable. So something like that. So that was one reason we sort of changed the technology entirely, because we believe that the intention of taking this to the patient's bedside, to the point of care, would not be able to be achieved if we continue going with this. So okay. that happened. Yeah.
Anirudh?
Yeah, in our case, I mean, the core technology still remained the same, but as about your question about attributes, yeah, I mean, product is always a bundle of attributes, and the attributes are there for the users. They decide actually really what attributes your product need to have, and because the value is in the attributes that are decided by the customer. So at Ford, we had a term long followed that at launch, if you're shipping a product, there used to be a milestone called OK to ship. And then came a new CEO, he was the ex-CEO of Boeing, Alan Mulally. And what Alan said on the first day is, who are you to decide on OK to ship? So he changed the term and he said, from today, it's OK to buy. If your product is OK to buy, meaning all your attributes, all your targets have been met and they are in line with what your customers are expecting, then only your product is. So attributes is something we do closely keep a tab on, and as I said initially in my answer, we did do quick tweaks to some of the key attributes that impact when your customer looks at your product. What's the first thing that they do? The display, the screen. So any parameters, the touch and feel, the styling aspects, that has to be absolutely in line with the expectation. And then the rest of the core technology is easy to explain later on. But so yeah, we did have some attributes changing, but not the core technology.
Satya, a point which Anirudh brought up earlier, I just wanted to quickly tell is, for different customer personas, the value proposition is different, right? And he mentioned about big hospitals and smaller hospitals, and how the bigger hospitals are looking for an entirely different value proposition than the smaller hospitals in rural settings and so on and so forth, who were valuing more of their hand cranking technology for power. The fact that if the power goes out, whereas for large hospitals, actually the value proposition, actually I know because I've interacted with them, it's extremely different, but they're still buyers of what Anirudh is selling, but for a very different reason. Sorry, continue, please.
No, Well pointed, Premnath, and well pointed, Anirudh, Mainak, and Sachin. Final question to all of you. I'm a big fan of all of you, as you know. So thanks for staying until now. What is scale to you? I wanted to have a long discussion on scale. We don't have time. So I just wanted to understand from your perspective, your industry, your company, where you are, what does scale mean? Because there's so many different dialogues and definition of scales floating around. And we have 5 amazing people. So can we start what scale is? And again, if you restrict to 1 minute, we will finish in exactly 8 o'clock. Before we finish, I want a picture to be taken of
Group photograph.
of everyone.
Yeah,
and then we'll let you go. Group photograph. Okay. So scale to you, starting with Nusrat.
I think it is, I'm still early to comment on that, but I will say that to me, scale is about scaling my innovation, expanding the scope of my innovation, because I'm not really thinking about having some 50 people or that kind of model I don't have. So in my perspective, in my business, I'm thinking in that way to scale my innovation, to incorporate or focus on that as much as possible to build the best molecular delivery system in the world. And I'll take this opportunity to comment on the previous question, because I think that might be helpful for the cohort, which I always followed is very 2 fundamental things. One is make your proof of concept as robust as possible, and build your product along with your customers. In my case, even though it is very hard to talk to the customers directly, but with great difficulty, whatever 101 that I could have with top executives of Pfizer, Novartis, J&J, Eli Lilly, everybody, I realized that making cisplatin better is not making them interested. So that doesn't have a market. That's how I focused on genome editing therapeutics that make delivering bigger molecules makes them more interested. And that's where money will come. And if I don't have money, I cannot make my dream of making existing drugs painless or with less side effects. So that's what I would like to end.
Thank you, Nusrat. Renuka? Scale.
So we started the company with the belief of bringing pride and profits to the farmers, and not just speaking about Indian farmers but globally. We see that farmers don't even want their children to take up farming. So for us, scale is till each and every farmer is proud that maybe his son or daughter is going to take up farming. So unless and until we do that, I think we'd keep going on. And in terms of the reach, I think for us, we're looking at a global platform, not just trying to focus on the Indian farmers, but everywhere where farmers are facing the difference between the potential yield and the actual yield, that's where we want to reach.
Wonderful. Sachin, my dear friend, scale to you.
So while as an entrepreneur, my ambitious scale would be that every UTI case is tested with USense. But yes, until and unless the product is launched, before that, to me, the scale is that coming from a small company based in Pune, the product's prototype at least have reached to New York, China, London, and Delhi. So that's sort of a good motivation for me to see that yes, there is scale, there is interest, and then again going international with many partners coming in and they're realizing that yes, this work is scalable to them is again feeling of scale to me. So yeah.
Lovely. Anirudh, my other dear friend.
Thanks. So yeah, I mean, simply put, for me, the scale is go back to the original problem with which you started with, basically the basis of why started the mission. So like, for example, in our case, the death rate due to sudden cardiac arrest is 3 to 4 times in India compared to the developed countries, and the number of defibrillators is really, really low. I mean, where the international guidelines are 1 defib per 3 ICU beds, India stands at like 1:50 or sometimes 1:150. So the scale means, are you building an organization that can solve this problem? So it's a huge white space. It's a huge opportunity to make that impact. Can all the tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 towns have a defibrillator, have a defibrillator, and not just India. Scaling means repeating the same thing across the world, go globally. So it's also, scaling is also part of it is, can you actually build the organization that not just the product scalability, but the organizational scalability? Can you build a scalable organization that can really go global fast enough and solve the problem that you actually started with?
Thank you. And last words from my dearest friend, Mainak.
Yeah, for me, I would say, a more generating legacy. I mean, that is what we aspire to leave. I mean, and hopefully at a global level. I mean, that's what we are working for. We'll give it a best shot. But I think if we can, more than money, I think if we can leave a legacy, the money and all other things will follow. I think that's what we want to do. That's what the aspiration is. The other thing is that there are very few, Indian companies who are leaders in their sectors. So that's what we have always felt, that, I mean, at least in our sector, we'll give it our best shot to be a possible leader. So that's a long-term aspiration. And if we can do that, I think since we work at the confluence of climate change, waste management, such things, hopefully it will make the world a better place. So that's what scale is. That's what aspiration is.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone. I think it's just amazing to hear all of you, Renuka, Nusrat, Sachin, Anirudh, Mainak. I've been a fan of, since your big days, and it gladdens my heart to see wherever you are going. So thank you, Premnath. Any last words from you? And we take pictures now, group photograph.
Yeah, request whoever is comfortable coming online on the video to do it now. Switch on your video, right? And others will also get to see who are our panelists will also get to see the cohort, including familiar faces like Ramji.
And Rajneesh.
Yeah.
Is Rajneesh there? All right.
Visible. Yeah, Anmol, will you take the shots?
Who is clicking it? Is it Anmol or?
Yeah, Anmol, are you taking the shot?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, please do. Great, we have 2 full pages.
Thank you.
Yep. Done?
Yeah. Lovely.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks
for
Satya,
waiting
thanks
for so long. Sorry for the delay, but I think we all enjoyed listening to the stories and case studies. So, Satya, over to you to close. Yeah.
No, I think whatever needed to be said by the panelists has been said. The take-home message,
Sorry, we can't hear you. You're breaking up, Satya.
I think Bala has been also. No, what I was saying is that what has been said, is really a lot of fodder for the mind. And it's amazing to hear our 5 speakers. They are really, great change makers in the world. All power to you all. Bala has been texting me as well. And I think a couple of things have come out. One is how close you are to your customer, how often you are listening to them, perseverance, resilience, legacy that you are creating, organization that you are building, as somebody said, then survival, corporate governance, team, being agile, trust, whether it's trust in the farming communities or trust in the big MNCs that are buying your product, trust in your vendors, in your distribution channel, and finally anchoring it to really creating the change you want to create in people's life. That has emerged out of your own personal stories of either grief or some pain that you have seen or you have gone through. So all of that is fantastic. And finally, I think, please let us not underestimate the power of serendipity. I think that is coming through and through. And as Premnath rightly pointed during the talk, and maybe to me as well, you have to be out there to be noticed, to talking, speaking to everyone. And it is a big transactional game, right? A lot of transaction time goes out, but you've got to start talking. So thank you, Nusrat, Renuka, Mainak, Anirudh, and Sachin. Thank you, all the cohort members who were part before. It's been more than 3 hours. We still have 42 people still there, 40 still. So with that, I will say goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll be in touch.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank
Take
you,
care.
everybody. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
Not, great session.
And before I forget, thanks to Anmol and Mugdha.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.